Hi, welcome to Stellaris Stories, a series in which I detail the stories created from my games of Stellaris, accompanied with some wonderful art. The first story I wanted to tell was the story of Hadtond, the God King of Space. Now, this story starts off when my friend says, "Hey, let's play some Stellaris." "Okay," I said. "Sounds fun." My friend was playing a greedy race of serpent people, but they were friendly for the most part. I, on the other hand, wanted to play something different. My race was a group of extremely spiritual and pacifist space turnips, which I named the Turnips of Peace. It was a wonderful little religious democracy. One of the civics I picked at the beginning allowed me to have a second, less smart, stronger, subservient race. I picked a group of hideous and yet somehow cute rat people, who I called the Reformed. The game started out pretty well. My friend's empire was right above mine, we traded. I funded his military efforts against the monsters at his borders, it was a good time. Now, I had resigned myself to being a pacifist in this game, hence the turnips of peace. But I ran into an issue. My neighbors to the south and west of me were huge dicks. Now, me being a pacifist, I could not declare war to take their land for myself. But I could declare war to change their government type, their ethics, their ethos, their way of life, to how I did things. To the south of my empire was a coalition of birds. There were roughly 4 or 5 different avian empires, all grouped up, none of them friends with each other. And every single one of them heretics. The turnips of peace could not stand the heresy. We had to change their minds with force. So, that's what me and my friend ended up doing. I formed a federation and we began our holy crusades in the southern galaxy, converting the heretics to our way of life and inviting them into the federation. We quickly reached a point where our federation consumed a third of the map. This is when an issue happened. Remember the hideous, subservient rat people I mentioned earlier? I had it set so that they could not become leaders, but this one rat kept popping up whenever I tried to recruit a scientist. Every time he showed up, every time I rejected him. Years and years went by, and my friend eventually just said, "Let the rat do his science." So I did. I recruited the rat, and by God did he science as hard as his brain would let him. Elections happened soon after, and my people, so enamored with the rat's science abilities, elected him as the leader. And they did it again the next election, and the one after, and the one after that. Thus begins the peaceful reign of President Hadtond. Hadtond must have been a persuasive dude because my people would not elect anyone else. The rat who wasn't even supposed to be in the leader pool became the undisputed face of my nation. And that's when my psychics breached the Shroud. The Shroud is basically a wibbly-wobbly space dimension of horror, mysticism, and power. You can talk to it every few years for a chance at getting a good buff. One time I spoke to the Shroud, and it asked for a leader. I was given a list of leaders with their chance of succeeding what the Shroud wanted, and Hadtond was at the top of the list, with the highest success chance. So of course, I picked the rat. The Shroud then changed him. It gifted upon Hadtond an enormous amount of spiritual energy. He was immortal now, a being of immense psychic power. He had the additional leader trait, the Chosen One. He continued to be elected by the people, and the Holy Crusades continued onwards. Another federation was forming to the north, right against my friend's borders, and was beginning to get threatening. So, we prepared for war against the north. Hadton began to summon massive psychic avatars, huge whirlwinds of shroud energy more than the size of a planet that he was able to control as ships. I had maybe 2 or 3 of these massive things just floating around. I used them to bomb planets. I think it was a pretty good intimidation tactic. However, that wasn't all. I had found a massive space dragon against my borders. Upon defeating it and turning its hide to scales for all my ships, I found an egg. Hatton nurtured the egg, and soon another space dragon spawned. Hatton's army now consisted of giant psychic avatars, ships made from dragon scale, and a literal goddamn space dragon. The people had been getting more and more respect for the little scientist that could, and soon a cult spawned around him. A cult that said he should be the one and only leader, that we should stop democracy and become a fully religious society. I had no choice. Hatton was proclaimed the immortal God King. Our government changed from a democracy to an imperial rule, and my civics became more religious. The immortal God King ruled with an iron yet peaceful fist. To his people, he was a benevolent ruler. To his enemies, a space wizard that controlled horrors beyond comprehension. To commemorate his rise to godhood, my people built a colossal ship, a ship that, when used, destroyed a planet. The ship was named the God King's Light. We continued our crusades until half the galaxy followed the God King. Me and my friend achieved the Federation victory, and thus ends the rule of Hatond. A rat man that tried to be a scientist. After I rejected him countless times, he kept trying and trying and trying. And once he became a scientist, the people loved him, voted into office again and again and again, until becoming the immortal God King. The moral of the story? If a hideous rat man wants to do science, you best let him do the science.